Okay, shalom. Shalom to the viewers online. And if you are of the Islamic faith, I'm going to greet you Assalamu alaikum. Uh, I understand that, from my understanding, it is the new month as well. Not today, but just a few days ago now. Uh, the crescent moon was sighted amongst those who follow the crescent moon calendar based on the new moon crescent. So I'm going to read this newsletter from sightedmoon.com. It was published on August the 9th, 2021. It was the first day of the seventh month on that day, and the year 5857, after the creation of Adam. So the new moon has been cited by many people, those of Messianic faith, those of Islamic faith, in particular Becca Biederman and Dennis and Maureen Jakolnik. So there was a photo posted, actually many photos and videos posted of this new moon. People used binoculars and other assistive technologies to get a visual of the moon. Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Whether you use technology to find the moon is visible or you don't, I mean, those weather technologies exist. So, for instance, if we have infrared technology and I can see clearly there is let's just say a lion in the jungle, just because uh, I choose to use my naked eye to sight it doesn't mean there's no lion in the jungle. It means it's still there. You just choose to ignore it. So, that's my argument for that. Yoel Halevi said the clouds are blocking his view, so he couldn't see it. Another person, Yochanan Zakantov Eat, the same down south in Beersheba. And then New Moon Society, a Jewish organization, said the clouds made the seeing hard to see. I saw at the last moment 20 and 10, so around 8:10 p.m. But from Jerusalem, the earliest time was 1955. So from Gadi. So again, we have multiple witnesses, not just those of Messianic faith, but including Islamic believers as well. So whether you're, Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, if you cite the moon, you cited the moon. Doesn't matter what faith you are. It just matters that you are a reliable witness and you saw it and you have proof to back up your statement, your witness. So there's a subheading. It says, in the mouth of two witnesses. So it says here, Rambam, or Maimonides as he's known, admitted it was okay if one witness would be accepted if they were trusted. In 1 Corinthians, Paul said, in the mouth of two or three witnesses, a thing is established. He went on to say how he was now stating to them a third time, using himself as the other two witnesses. So where's the second witness? Rebecca, or Rivka, Biederman is a faithful and reliable witness for both the barley and the new moon. She has claimed she saw it with her eye. She also took video of the new crescent, and she took pictures of it as it set. How can we discard her testimony if she was the only one? This is something all of us must ask of ourselves and weigh and judge. Not so much for this time, as we now have three and even more, including other people of Islamic faith, as I said. But the next time, when we only have one, then what do we do? As for me, I waited for other witnesses to come forward, and to be honest, I take the witness of those who are Muslim with the same credibility. I don't think they would lie about a new moon. They've been doing this for hundreds of years, so I think they know what they're doing. I think they know what a new crescent is, uh, as opposed to a lot of us messianics who are relatively new to this. There's only that something that we've been keeping less than 100 years, so they have a lot more experience doing this. So it would be wrong for us to just dismiss their witness as well. We need to take their witnesses as well. Not that we should always have their witness, but if we're lacking and we need more witnesses, they can be relied on to give us a supporting evidence for a new moon sighting. We may not agree on every single thing that we believe, but we do agree on this calendar as it relates to the new moon. Who else in this planet is doing this besides us? And when I say us, I mean those who observe the new moon, sighted moon calendar, crescent moon, and those who uh, are Muslim who observe this calendar as well. Okay. As for me, I've waited for other witnesses. Okay, did. We had a similar situation when Roy Hoffman was the only witness with his camera. We accepted his testimony a couple of years ago. I'll now give you some of the man made rules as recorded by Rambam and about the witnesses. I have highlighted the section where he said one reliable Jew was good enough before they started to mess with the testimonies. Maliki is going to restore all things according to the last verse. Okay. Does not say he was going to restore the traditions of men. Let us be prudent in what we are doing and how we do it. So there's saying here, Kiddush HaKodesh, chapter 2 by Rabbi Moshe ben Maimonides, translated by Eliyahu Tuger, or Tuge. So I'm going to just skim over this and see what's important here. The only testimony acceptable with regard to the sighting of the new moon is that of two adult males who are fit to testify regarding all matters. Women and slaves, by contrast, are like other unacceptable witnesses and may not testify. So I find that interesting because I believe in the Islamic faith as well. The testimony of two women is equal to one, if I'm not mistaken. But here in this, what I'm reading here, it's saying it's not acceptable. Looks like all across the board, women and slaves. For some reason, that's the way it is there. Not saying I believe this, but I'm just saying that that's what I'm reading. When a father and a son both see the new moon, they should go. They should both go to the court, I think to the Sanhedrin, to testify. Not because testimony regarding the new moon is acceptable, uh, because they're related, but because one of them may be disqualified because he is a thief or for other reasons. The other will be able to join with another person and give testimony. A person who is disqualified from serving as a witness by rabbinical decree, although he is acceptable according to the law of Torah, may not serve as a witness with regard to the new moon. According to the law of the Torah, there's no need to be precise regarding testimony about the sighting of the new moon. Okay, you don't need to be precise regarding the testimony. Why? For even if the new moon was sanctified on the basis of the testimony of witnesses, later it was discovered those witnesses had perjured themselves, remained sanctified. Okay, I don't understand the reasoning behind that. So they based this testimony on the reputation of the witnesses, on how well they are favored in their society. So if people look down on them or they're seen as outcasts, they may not accept their testimony. It's notable. So if the High Court, or I think in the Sanhedrin, does not know the character of the witnesses who sighted the moon, the inhabitants of the city where the moon was sighted would send other witnesses together with the witnesses who saw the moon to substantiate their character to the court. So they need a character, uh, like a character profile, not really a profile, but like a character support. It's like where you have people backing up your character. I don't know what the term is right now, but a testimony of your character, a good report of your character, like a reference letter, you could say. When the witnesses came to testify, they would ask them, "Where did you see the moon? To the north or to the south of the sun? In which direction were its corners pointed?" And I believe that's something I learned as well when I did some research into this, the sighting of the new moon or the hilal crescent. Uh, they determined uh, using the clock, 12, 6, and 3. 3 would be over here in your perspective, and 9. You're looking at where are the points in relation to a clock. So what I noticed most of the time is usually 2 and 8. That's what I find. Most of the time is 2 and 8 or 1 and 7. Very rarely do you see it at 3 and 9, but 2 and 8, you see that a lot. How high and how wide did it appear to you? If their replies were suitable, their testimony was accepted. If their replies were not suitable, their testimony was not accepted. But now we have an invention called the camera, so we can show you photographic evidence. This is what the moon looks like. So if we have multiple pictures and they're showing the same exact orientation of the moon, whether it's 2 and 8 or 1 and 7, you can kind of sift through and prove who's telling the truth or not, because it's not going to look different from other parts of the world in terms of its orientation. I don't think, at least. I could be wrong with that, but it won't be wildly different. uh, so it's just a lot of witnesses saying their statements here. Okay. If the witness says, "We saw the moon without concentrating our attention, and then when we concentrated our attention so that we could testify, we did not see it." Okay, I don't understand that. If witnesses say, "We saw the moon on the 29th day in the morning in the east before sunrise, and afterwards in the evening we saw it in the west on the 30th night," their testimony is believed, and the moon can be sanctified on this basis. The rationale is that they saw the moon at its appropriate time. Their testimony about what they thought they saw in the morning is disregarded. We need not pay any attention to what they saw in the morning, for it is obvious that it was the conjunction of clouds that appeared to them as the moon. If they claim to have seen the moon at its appropriate time, but it was not seen on the 31st night, their testimony is believed. For what it is significant for us is only the sighting on the 30th night. Yeah, it's important, the timing. Okay. It says a minimum of 3 judges is required to sanctify the new moon. Similarly, calculations regarding the moon's position must be made by 3 judges. The new moon is sanctified only when it is sighted at its appropriate time. So again, it has to be the 29th or 30th day. Moreover, the moon is sanctified only during the day. If it was sanctified at night, the sanctification is of no consequence. So that's an interesting point. I would disagree with that. You sight the moon, you sight the moon, whether it's during the evening, day, or night. I mean, you see it, you've seen it. No one can tell you didn't see it. Just because we're going to go by technicality, by people's opinions, I think that's that's dangerous. So if the court and the entire Jewish people saw the moon, but the court did not declare that it has been sanctified before the nightfall, beginning the 31st day, or if the witnesses were cross-examined, but afterwards the court was not able to declare that it has been sanctified before the nightfall, it should not be sanctified, and the month should be full. Despite the fact the moon was sighted on the 30th night, it is the 31st day that will be Rosh Chodesh, for the sanctification of the new moon is not established by the sighting of the moon, but by the court that declares it has been sanctified. And I think that's that's a big mistake. That's a wrong judgment right there, in my opinion. So we're just going to deny what you see in the sky. So it doesn't matter what happens in the heavens. It's what we say, because we're the authorities overall. I think that's why when they take their Hillel 2 calendar, they just run with it and they say we can delay, we can add postponements, we can do whatever we want, and the Torah be damned. Basically, is what they're saying. Let our Talmud be the authority, and that's satanic in my opinion. It's a satanic point of view. They don't respect the Torah. They don't respect the law of Elohim. If the judges sight the moon on the night of the 30th day after two stars have appeared, um, they should adhere to the following procedure. So on the morrow, the next day, two judges join one of the three. The other two testify before this court of three, who then sanctify the new month. Okay, I'm not sure. This is very, very technical. So once the court sanctifies the new month, it remains sanctified, whether they made a mistake. Okay, I don't agree with any of this, to be honest. So let's see what he says about this. It sounds very dangerous. I would not adhere to this belief. Okay, I'm not sure what it's talking about now. Followers of Bythos, whatever that means. Who are the followers of Bythos? So Antigonus of Soko had two talented students, Zadok and Bythos. When Antigonus taught, "Do not be like students serving a master in order to receive a reward," they turned away in disgust, commenting, "Is it proper for a worker to toil the entire day without receiving any reward, any recompense?" They began splinter groups that rejected the core of Jewish practice and coveted material wealth. They found that they could not convince the majority of the people to reject the Torah entirely, so they adopted a different tactic. They claimed that they were true to Torah, but the only Torah that was godly was the written law. The oral law they maintained was merely a human invention. Okay, interesting. So they're making an argument for adhering to the oral Torah. I think that's the Talmud, if I'm not mistaken. The sages would refer to those who deny the Torah and its tradition as Sadducees from Zadok or Bythoses from Bythos. Not only do these individuals scorn Torah observance themselves, but they tried, as indicated by this halakha, to undermine the observance of the Jewish nation as a whole. Our translation follows the standard printed text of the Mishnah Torah. Many original printings and manuscripts state that Minim non-believers, rather than the followers of Bythos. Similarly, the Rambam source uses this term. Some consider this as a reference to the early Christians. Wow, so they refer to early Christians as non-believers. So we can see a lot of satanic things being said about Christians here. Wrong things. I'll just say the wrong things or a wrong opinion. And they said that the Sadducees paid witnesses 400 zuzim, sounds like a currency, to testify falsely with regard to the sighting of the moon. Wow. So there's a lot of man-made rules in regards to the sighting of the moon. It has to be seen clearly, not obstructed by clouds. It should be the moon itself, not the reflection of the moon, and so on. So everybody knows, it says here, everyone knows that at the beginning of the month, the moon, or the new crescent moon, always appears on the western horizon for a brief period after the setting of the sun. I noticed that too. It usually is the western horizon. At this time of the month, seeing it in the morning before sunrise is impossible. Yeah, it's very hard to see that in the morning. The evening is the best time on the 29th, 30th day. Since the testimony of these witnesses contains an obvious error, the testimony should be disregarded entirely. Okay. I'm just scanning through it. I don't want to read the whole thing. Just get the best parts of it. So this is not Torah at all. This is men's opinions. Just want to state that. That's one of the most important things. This is not Torah. What I'm reading here is men's opinions. So this all could be taken with a big mountain of salt. You don't have to adhere to this. This is not in any way the law of Yah or the law of Elohim. But it is biblical and it is scriptural that the month does begin when the moon is sighted, the new crescent moon. That is scriptural. But all these man-made rules regarding who can see it and what is a new moon and what qualifies as the sighting of the moon and how many people and all this. But things change as the technology evolves. You've got cameras, you have live streaming and things like that. I'm not saying we should believe all those videos and photos, but when you have enough witnesses, when you have people who are reputable, who are trustworthy, then yeah, that should solidify this their witness, their testimony. So they've put a lot of authority. They've given a lot of authority to the Sanhedrin. We can see Yeshua Hamashiach's attitude towards these authority figures, that they were hypocrites for the most part. And I can see right through this too. This is a lot of hypocrisy being written here, that is posted here, talking about, don't accept the witness of a woman, of a slave. Don't accept if, you don't like their reputation for whatever reason. If it's personal, I just don't like that person, I can reject their testimony. So if I'm somebody who's regarded as an outcast, and a lot of the prophets were seen as outcasts, they will disregard their testimony just because they don't like them or they have a reputation that maybe they're not popular amongst you know the Sanhedrin or the authorities, even though maybe the people, the actual, the people of the day, uh, do respect that person and acknowledge him as a prophet of Yah. Okay. It is significant to mention that Rashi and others differ with the Rambam's interpretation of the Mishnah. So this is the Mishnah again. I don't believe the Mishnah at all. I don't. Or the Talmud. Only the Torah. I only stick to the Torah. That's what was given to us by Moses. All these human commentaries are, in my opinion, worthless. I mean, not worthless, but compared to the Torah, they're worthless. I mean, there are some things you can glean from them, but it's very dangerous to base your faith on that. I think that's a very dangerous thing to do. So I'm not going to do that. I will listen and read, but I'm not going to take it like the gospel, like it is the word of Yah, because it isn't. They're just opinions of men. And a lot of times they do get it wrong. Consider it as referring to the sighting of the moon at the conclusion of the 30th day and the eve of the 31st. From this time onward, they can no longer sanctify the new moon on the basis of their sighting alone. Instead, the procedure outlined by the Rambam must be followed. See, again, they put too much emphasis on people's authority. Significantly, instead of mentioning the court or the Sanhedrin as being forced to sanctify the month, on the wrong day, Rosh Hashanah states, even if they purposefully sanctified the moon on the wrong day, i.e., they accepted the testimony of witnesses even when they knew it was flimsy, the Rambam chooses not to mention such an instance and instead quotes the Mechilta, the Rashbi, and the Sephira. So it states, once Rabbi Yeshua differed with Rabban Gamliel concerning the acceptance of the testimony of witnesses with regard to Rosh Hashanah. Since Rabban Gamaliel was the head of the high court, his opinion was accepted. To emphasize the importance of following the necessity for uniform adherence to the decisions of the court, Rabban Gamaliel ordered Rabbi Yehoshua to, I think it's a different Yeshua, to appear before him carrying his staff and his wallet on the day that Rabbi Yehoshua thought should be considered Yom Kippur. After consulting with his colleagues, Rabbi Yehoshua obeyed Rabban Gamaliel's instructions. Afterward, Rabban Gamaliel honored Rabbi Yehoshua for his humility and deference to the court's authority. Again, definitely not the Yeshua HaMashiach. That's a different Yehoshua. He would not defer to their authority. Um, okay, meaning which in the above verse can also mean you. When vocalized differently, thus the authority of you, the Jewish court to whom the matter is entrusted, is emphasized more powerfully by Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, or Maimonides, translated by Eliyahu Tugger. Okay, I'm going to read the comments. Thank you for the reports. For all the reasons discussed at length on Shabbat, one, two, maybe three different photos from different people who are, again, reputable. How do you determine reputation? Well, that's up to you, I guess. I'm thankful there's three witnesses for this very important month. Okay. So Rivka, and understood the importance of this sighting. Other people, they just took it as a 6 months, so they didn't think it was that important to get it right. But she did, and she did video. She really did her best, and she did a great service to a lot of people, and even the Muslims too. They don't slack regarding this crescent moon. They are very diligent with this, and they do it with a lot of devotion, a lot of passion, and they put their everything into it. So I looked at the group, Islamic group, regarding this as well, and they cited it too. So we have not just two or three witnesses; we probably have thousands of witnesses if you really, really uh, consider their testimony as well, and I do. As I finished the newsletter and sent it to them, I did not want to have another controversy. So, yeah, not every Muslim will cite it from Jerusalem. They'll cite it from where they are. That's what I noticed as well. They'll cite it from where they live. And should we take that testimony? Should we accept it? Ideally, you want it from Jerusalem, but if you do cite it around the world, that should be taken into account as well. Not that it has authority over Jerusalem. I don't think it does. It's not the same, but it is the same moon. So, take for that what you will. So, just want to add a correction to her letter. I'm sure it was a copy paste error. Sunset July 11, 2021 marks the beginning of the new month. Okay. I'm not sure what they're talking about there. Thank you for letting us know about the new moon sighting. Were there any significant events on Passover this year or on the seventh day of Matzah or unleavened bread? Pentecost Teruah. Last year, the WHO declared a global pandemic on Passover. Big clue, I know. From the American side, a huge conference has occurred on Passover, Shavuot, and now Teruah. One is going on involving many state officials and leaders of key fields, encouraging Americans not to believe the narrative and pushing for freedom. Very interesting. Not trying to debate. I thought it was important to acknowledge current events on those Moedim, as it is Yah's calendar, not ours. I watched the discussion between Cyrus Harding and Mark Webb. My conclusion is what we see happening in the sky above happens below. Yeah, I agree with that. That a man can say whatever they want. They can make up, oh, I saw the moon, I didn't. But it's really the heavens that declare the calendar. So, yes, we were given eyes to um, witness these things and report them. We've been given mouths to report them. So that's good. It's a lot of man's opinion and man's traditions and laws here. These are not Jehovah's or Elohim's. So, you know what? I felt like it was a waste of time in a way to read that, but it's good to, but it was good because it helps us to understand, okay, how do we determine a new moon? Is it one witness or two witnesses? And how do you determine whether these witnesses are credible? So that's something we all have to ask ourselves. And it's something I had to ask myself: Am I going to accept the testimony of people of different faiths? And my personal answer is yes. I'm not going to accept everybody's faith and all the different things, that we differ on. I'm not going to accept those. I'm going to accept what we have in common. So, for instance, if I'm at a gathering and they're serving pork and we have Muslims there and they don't eat that, and I'm not going to eat it either because we should know better. But if there's something more subtle, for instance, gelatin, and I say, "Oh, you know what? That has gelatin in there," and I go up to the my fellow human being, Muslim believer, and I say, "You know what? We both don't eat pork. That has gelatin in it. You may not know," and they'll say, "Thank you. I didn't even realize that it is pork." Sometimes they're not aware of it, and sometimes they don't know that there's gelatin. So it does take a little diligence in just making sure, reading the ingredients beforehand. And in this case, we have to do our research. We have to prove all things, even little things like gelatin, even things like the sighted moon. Prove that it's the right calendar. And I've proven it. Actually, I tried to prove it wrong. That's how I got into this. Is that I tried to prove that this is not the right calendar, that it was the Hillel 2 calendar, realizing the truth that Hillel 2 didn't exist when Yeshua HaMashiach walked the earth, when Joshua the Anointed, when Jesus Christ was walking this earth. He followed a different calendar because Hillel 2 existed and was born after he already lived and died and was resurrected. So it was technically impossible, historically impossible, for him to keep any other calendar but the sighted moon calendar, which was what the Jews used at that time. And then later on, 650 years later, you have the Muslims also doing that biblically based calendar. Not saying they keep every single thing according to the Bible, but they keep that. And credit where credit is due to them for doing that, because that is correct. It is scriptural to determine the new months using the moon. It's not just there as a decoration. It's there. It was created for a reason, for us to uh, keep track of time. It's not just a regular day when you see a new moon. That is a special day, and could be possibly even a holy day, a set apart day that we're not supposed to work on. I don't know that for a fact, but prophetically, there are a lot of evidences that show that they close the gates on the Sabbaths, the new moons, and the holy days, the Moedim, the feast days, is when people are not to buy. That's in a prophecy. So I don't know if that's to be applied today in our current era. But that's all I have for this video, this live stream. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to write my Shabbat message coming up in 2 days. This has been a month in the making, but due to circumstances which are out of my control and other circumstances that are personal, that I have not been able to do this message. So I'm working on that today, and I want to devote the the time necessary to make this uh, uh, the best it can be. So that's all I have for this video, and peace be with you from the Father and Yeshua HaMashiach. Shalom.